Hello everyone, welcome back to Dijonae Jaynae Educational Channel. In today's lesson, we will be learning about dividing decimals by decimals, and my mother is going to be helping you with this session today. Enjoy!
All right, guys, I am super excited about this session. And of course, if you are just joining in, I am Debra-kaye, I am Dijonae mother, and I am checking in with you on Math Hour. Today, we are going to be dividing decimals by decimals. All right, are you ready? Of course, I am ready, so you should be ready. All right, so first, we need to know that when dividing by decimals, the divisor must always be changed to a whole number. This is done by multiplying the divisor by power of 10, which will make it a whole number. All right, so we're going to go right ahead, and of course, we're going to work our first problem. All right, and our first problem that we have, I am going to write it on the board so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so the first problem that we have to work is 18.15 divided by 0.5. All right, let me write it so you can see what I'm talking about. So we have 18.15 divided by 0.5. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is to identify our divisor. What is our divisor in this problem? Our divisor in this problem is 0.5. That's our divisor. The next thing we are going to do is that we are going to look to see how many decimal places we have after our decimal place. And of course, we have one decimal place right there. So we are now going to write back our divisor. All right, let me take it out and let me write it. 0.5. And of course, I am going to be multiplying by 10. I am going to be multiplying by 10. Why 10? 5 is in the 10th place, so we're multiplying by 10. All right, so we know that when we are multiplying by 10, we move how many places to our right? We move one place to our right. All right, so the decimal place is now going to come after the 5. All right, so we would end up with 5. All right, so now here our divisor is 5, and of course 5 is a whole. All right, it's a whole number. All right, so now whatever you do to your divisor, you must do to your dividend. All right, what is the dividend in that problem that we have working? It is 18.15. I'm going to take it and I'm going to write it 18.15. And of course, I'm going to multiply by 10 as well. All right, so I am going to move one place to my right. So now the decimal place is going to come right there. So I am going to rewrite so that you can see what my dividend is looking like. So it is going to be 181.5. All right. So let us go right ahead and let us work this problem. All right. But before we work the problem, I am going to rewrite the problem so you see exactly what we have working with. All right. So that is now going to be 181.5 divided by 5. All right. So let's go right ahead and set the problem out. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go right ahead and of course we're going to set the problem out. Look carefully at what I am doing. All right. So remember now, our dividend is 181.5. And of course, let me write the word dividend so you know what I'm talking about. And the word dividend is spelled D-I-V-I-D-E-N-D. All right? Our answer is going to be up here. And of course, your answer is known as your quotient. And that is Q-U-O-T-I-E-N-T. Let me write it. All right? So your answer is known as your quotient. So I write it right there. All right? Remember now 5 is your divisor. And of course, let me write the word divisor right here so you know what I'm talking about. So that's D-I-V-I-S-O-R. So that's your divisor. All right? So let's go right ahead and work this problem. First, you're going to say to yourself, how many groups of 5 can you get from 1? Of course, 1 is smaller than 5, so we can't get a group of 5. So I'm going to put a 0 here to say we can't. 18. So you're going to say to yourself, how many groups of 5 can you get from 18? All right? Go to your 5 times table now. And of course, we can get 3 groups. All right? We can get 3 groups of 5. All right? Let's go right ahead. And of course, let's work this problem together. All right? What is the next thing that we are going to do? We are now going to say 3 multiplied by 5. And of course, that is 15. All right? We're going to draw your line, of course, and we're going to take away. All right? So you're going to say you have 8 things and you give away 5. Of course, you're left with 3. One thing you give away 1, you are left with 0. All right? What is the next thing? You are going to ask yourself, you get a group of 5 from this 3. No, you can't. And because you can't, you're going to bring down the next digit that is in line. And of course, that is our 1. All right? So I'm going to bring it right down beside my 3 that I have right here. And of course, I'm going to end up with 31. Now ask yourself, how many groups of 5 can you get from 31? And of course, you can get 6 groups. You can get 6 groups of 5. All right, I'm going to write my 6 right there. So the next thing you are going to do is to multiply. All right, so what you're going to multiply, you're going to take this 6 and multiply it by this 5, and you're going to get 30. You're going to draw your line, and of course, you are going to take away. You have 30 things, and of course, you give away, you have 31 things, and of course, you give away 30. You have 1 left. All right? So what is next? What do we do next? The next step is that we're going to look to see what is next in line, and of course, that is our decimal place, and I'm going to put it right here in my quotient. The next thing we're going to do to look to see if we have any more digits in line, and of course we have the 5, which is in the 10th place, and I'm going to bring it right down by this 1. And of course, I'm going to end up with 15. So now you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 5 can you get from 15? And of course, we can get 3 groups. All right? So I'm going to write my 3 right here. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to multiply. So we're going to take this 3 and we're going to multiply it by this 5. And of course, we are going to get 15. Draw your line, of course. Then you're going to take away. Then you're going to say you have 15 things and you give away all 15 of it. You have 0 left. All right? So, of course, our quotient is 36.3. That is our quotient. And of course, that is how we go about working decimal divide by decimal. Remember, the first thing you have to do is to ensure that you change your divisor to a whole. All right? So I'm going to leave it there for you to look at it, and then I'm going to erase it in a bit. All right, so let me go to the chat to see who we have here with us. And of course, we have Tariq, and Tariq said, ready. All right, welcome, Tariq. We also have Ellie, and Ellie is saying, blessing everyone. We also have Sister Sydney, and she say, hi, Princess Dijonae and beautiful Deborah and everyone in the chat. Welcome, Miss Sydney. Of course, we have Nisha James TV, and she said, Dijonae's Educational Channel, blessing and love, Sister Deborah and my baby. And of course, she is in ads. All right, we also have Nisha saying hello to LA. We also have Sister Sydney saying happy Tuesday to everyone. And of course, Sister Nisha saying hi to all the persons who are in the chat. And of course, Sister Sydney is greeting you, Sister Nisha. All right, so guys, have a close look at it. I'm going to erase it in a few, and we're going to take the next question. All right, so I'm going to erase this problem now. And of course, we're going to take question number 2. All right, let me erase this problem. All right, so problem number 2. And problem number 2 is that we have 3.2. We have 3.2. And of course, we are divided by 0.004. All right, so that's what we're dividing by. Remember, the first thing we have to do is to ensure that we change our divisor to a whole. All right, so 4 is in the thousandth place, and of course, because it is in the thousandth place, we are going to multiply by 1,000. So first, you are going to take your divisor, and of course, in order for this 4 to be a whole, we are going to multiply by 1,000. All right, so let me do it for you. All right, so 0.004, and of course, we're multiplying by 1,000. Remember now, when you are multiplying by this 1,000 that we have right here, we are going to ensure that we move to our right. All right, so we're going to be moving by 10, right? Powers of 10. All right, so we have to move 3 times. So we have 1 power of 10, 2 power of 10, 3 powers of 10. And of course, the decimal place is going to come right. Our divisor to all, we must multiply by powers of 10, right? So whatever you do to your divisor, you must do it to your dividend. All right, so remember now that our divisor is now 4, right? So it is now a whole. So now we are going to take our dividend, which is 3.2, and we're going to multiply it by 1,000. All right, so look at me. 1,000. So remember now, you are going to move 3 places to your right. So this is 1 place, 2 places, 3 places. All right. So let me move this over a little so you can see exactly what I'm doing. All right. So we move 3 places to our right. All right. So in these spaces, we're going to have some zeros. All right. So remember now the decimal place is now right here. So let's see what we have working with. So we end up with 3,200, right? That's what we end up with. All right. So now I am going to rewrite the problem so that you can see exactly what we are doing right here. All right. So this is a problem that we have working with. It is 3,200 divided by 4. And of course, let us put our decimal place right here because remember we're using decimal, but you know that 3,200.0 is the same thing as 3,200, right? So let's go right ahead and work it. We have to set the problem out in order for us to work it, okay? Let's go right ahead and work this problem. So in this case, 4 is our divisor. And of course, 3,200.0 is our dividend. All right. Let's go right ahead and work this problem out. First, you have to ask yourself, how many groups of 4 can you get from 3? How many groups of 4s can you get from 3? And of course, you can't, so you're going to write 0 right here. The next thing you are going to do is to say to yourself, how many groups of 4 can you get from 32? All right. How many groups of 4s can you get from 32? And of course, you can get 8 groups of 4s. All right. The next step is that you're going to take this 8 and multiply it by 4. And of course, that is going to give you 32. Draw your line, and of course, you're going to take away. So the next thing you're going to say, 32, and you give away all 32 of it, you have 0 left. What do we do next? Look to see the next digit that you have in line. And of course, the next digit we have in line is 0. So we're going to bring it down. Can you get a group of 4 from this 0? No, we can't. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a 0 right here to say that we can't. Then the next step is that we're going to look to see if we have any more digits. And of course, we are going to bring it down. We have another 0. All right. So we'll bring it down. Then you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 4s can you get from this 0 that you just bring down? And of course, we can't. So we're going to write another 0 right there. All right. So look to see what is next in line. Of course, we have our decimal place. So we'll put it right back in our quotient. And of course, we are going to look to see we have a next 0 right there after our decimal place. Of course, we're going to bring it down. Then the next step is that we're going to ask ourselves, how many groups of 4s can we get from 0? We can't again. So we're going to put a 0 right there in our quotient. And of course, our quotient right here is 800, right? So that is your answer. Remember, in a division problem, your quotient is the same thing as your answer. All right. So I'm going to leave it right there for you to see exactly what we're doing. All right. So let me go to the chat and say hello to everyone. All right. So we understand this is Tanisha. And of course, we also have with us Miss Inga, and she said, hello, Dijonae. Of course, she's in traffic. She's also saying hello to the persons in the chat. She's also saying hello to Sister Sydney. And of course, she is asking if there's anyone here. All right, guys. So we're going to go right ahead. And of course, we are going to do another problem. All right, so I'm going to erase this one and we're going to go right ahead and do another problem. So let's take another problem. So for the persons who are just joining in, we are doing division, and of course, we are dividing decimals by decimal. All right? Remember now, when you are dividing a decimal number by a decimal, the first thing you have to do is to ensure that you change your divisor to a whole. And how do you go about doing that? You have to multiply by powers of 10. All right? So let's go ahead and take the next problem. All right, so problem number 2, we just finished that. So we're going to go right ahead and do problem number 3. And of course, that is 2.19. And of course, we are dividing by 0.0. So that's the next problem we are doing. All right, let's go right ahead and work. We have to change our divisor to all. This is your divisor. All right, guys, if you are hearing me, please let me know. Please let me know if you are hearing me. You can leave a message for me to know if you are hearing me. All right. So we're going to go right ahead and work this problem. I think we were cut off right as I was explaining. All right. So first, you have to identify the different parts of this division. So 2.19 is known as your dividend. And of course, 0.001 is known as your divisor. We're going to solve this to find our quotient. All right, remember the first thing we have to do is to take our divisor. All right, so we're going to go right ahead and we're going to take our divisor and we're going to multiply it by 1000, right? So let's take it. That's 0.001, and of course we're multiplying by 1000. All right, so remember now we're multiplying by 1000, so that is 3 powers of tens that we're going to be moving to our right. That's 1, 2, 3. So the decimal place is going to come after our 1 right here, and of course our answer is going to be 1, right? So the next thing is that we are going to do the same thing to our dividend. All right, so we're going to multiply our dividend by 1000 as well. So we're going to write it down, 2.19 multiplied by 1000. All right, so we are going to move 3 places to our right. 1, 2, 3. All right, so right here we have an empty space, so we're going to put a 0 right there. Okay. All right, so let's write so that we can see what we have working with. All right, so let me show you what we have working with. We now have 2190.0. All right, that is what we have working with. All right, so we're going to go right ahead, and of course we're going to rewrite this problem so we know exactly what we have. All right, and of course that is 2190.0 divided by 1. All right, so that is what we have working with. All right, so now we're going to go right ahead, and of course we're going to solve this problem. So we're going to set out our division right here. Remember, we're solving to get our quotient, and in this division problem, 1 is our divisor, and of course 2190 in this case is known as our dividend. All right, so let's solve this problem. First, you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 1 can you get from 2? And of course, we can only get 1 group of 1. All right, so 1 multiplied by 1 is going to give you 1. Of course, you're going to take away now. You have 2 and you give away 1 something. Oh, so you see, sorry, you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 1 can you get from 2? And of course, we can get 2 groups. All right, so 2 multiplied by 1, you have 2. All right, so let's go right ahead and work this problem. You have 0 left right there. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is to look to see what is next in line. What is next in line? All right, so we're going to look to see what is next in line, and of course that is numeral 1. We're going to bring it right down. Let's bring it down, and of course we're going to ask ourselves, how many groups of 1 can we get from this 1? And of course we are going to write 1 group. All right, now we're going to take this 1 and multiply by this 1, and of course you're going to get 1. So you're going to take away again. You have 1 thing and give away 1, you have 0 left. Look to see what is next in line, and of course that is our 9. You're going to bring your 9 right down. And of course you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 1 can you get from 9? Of course you can get 9 groups of 1. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is that we are going to take this 9 and multiply it by 1, and of course we're going to get 9. Draw your line, and of course we're going to take away. You have 9 things and take away all of it. You have 0 left. Look to see what is next in line, and of course we have 0. We're going to bring it right down, and of course how many groups of 1 can you get from 0? You can get 0 groups, right? So what is next in line? We have our decimal place, so we bring it over up in our quotient, and of course What is next in 9? We have a 0. We're going to bring it right down. And of course, when we bring it down, we're going to ask ourselves, can we get a group of 1 from 0? And of course, we can't. So we're going to put 0 right here. So in this case, our quotient is 2190.0, which is the same thing as 2190. All right. So let me go to the chat to see who we have here with us. And of course, we have Sharita joining. Welcome, Sharita. Thank you for joining us on Math Hour. And of course, I'm leaving it there for you to look at it. So I'm going to be erasing it in a few. All right, guys. So I'm going to be erasing this problem. And of course, we're going to take another problem. Let's go right ahead and take another problem. All right. So the next problem we're going to be doing now is 4.26 divided by 0.2. That's the problem we're going to be working now. So let me write it right here. 4.26. Of course, we're dividing by 0.2. All right. So let's go right ahead, and of course, we're going to work this problem. First thing we have to do is to identify our divisor in this problem. Let's identify our divisor in this problem. And of course, in this case, our divisor is 0.2. So we're going to take it 0.2, and we're going to look to see which power of 10 we're going to be dividing by. If we're going to divide by 10, 100, or 1,000. In this case, we're going to be dividing. We're going to be multiplying by 10. Okay? We're going to be multiplying by 10. So remember now, when you are changing from a decimal to a whole number, you multiply by powers of 10. All right? So let's go right ahead and do that. So we're going to multiply by 10 in this case. All right? So now we're going to move one place to our right. So the decimal place is going to come after the 2. All right? So it is going to now be a whole number. That's what it's going to be now. All right? So the next thing we're going to do is to change our dividend by multiplying by 10 as well. Whatever we do to our divisor, we must do it to our dividend. 4.26 multiplied by 10. All right, so we're going to be moving one place to our right. So that's where the decimal place is now going to be. Of course, what we have working with is 42.6. That is what we have working with now. So I am going to rewrite this problem so we know exactly what we have working with. And of course, that's 42.6 divided by 2. All right. So that's what we have working with. So let's go right ahead now and work this problem out. All right. So we're going to start first. So in this case, we have 42.6 and we're dividing by 2. All right, so first you ask yourself, how many groups of 2's can you get from 4? And of course, we can get 2 groups. 2 multiplied by 2, that is 4. Draw your line, and of course, you're going to take away. You have 4 things, and you give away all 4 of it. You have 0 left. The next thing we're going to do is to look to see what digit is next in line, and we're going to bring it right down. It is numeral 2. Ask yourself, how many groups of 2's can you get from this 2? And of course, you can only get 1 group. So you're going to take this 1 and multiply it by 2, and of course, you're going to get 2. You have 2 things, and you give away all 2 of it. You are left with 0. The next thing you're going to look to see what is next in line. You have your decimal place. You're going to bring it right up in your quotient. All right, so look to see if we have any more digits. And of course, we have the 6, which is in the 10th place. We're going to bring it right down. Then you're going to say to yourself, how many groups of 2's can you get from this 6? And of course, you can get 3 groups. And of course, 3 multiplied by 2, you have 6. Draw your line, take away, you have 0 left. So in this case, your quotient is 21.3. And of course, your quotient is the same thing as your answer. All right. So let me go to the chat to see the persons who are here with us. And of course, I'm leaving it for you to have a look at it. So we have with us Zahir. Welcome, Zahir. Thank you for joining us on Maths Hour. We also have Annalisa. And of course, Annalisa is saying good night. All right. Good night, Annalisa. And of course, you're getting welcome from Sister Sidonie. All right. All right. So I'm going to erase this. And of course, I'm going to add another problem on the board. Let's go right ahead and work on another problem. All right. The next problem that we're going to be working is 0.3 divided by 0.003. Let me write it so you can see what I'm talking about. 0.3 divided by 0.003. That's the problem we have. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is to identify our divisor. In this case, our divisor is 0.003. All right, so we're now going to multiply our divisor by 1,000 to make it a whole number, right? So I'm going to take it and I'm going to write it right here. 0.003 multiplied by 1,000. All right, when you are multiplying by powers of 10, you move to your right. So we're going to move 3 places, 1, 2, 3. And in this case, your decimal place is now at the end. It is after 3. All right, so let me write so you see what we have working with. So now our divisor is 3. It is now a whole. All right. So whatever you do to your divisor, you must do the same thing to your dividend. All right. So I'm going to take my dividend. I'm going to write it 0.3. And of course, I'm going to multiply by 1,000 as well. So I'm going to move 3 places to my right as well. So that's 1, 2, 3. And of course, the decimal place is going to fall right here. All right, but I'm going to fill out these blank spaces with some zeros. All right, so we're going to put some zeros in these blank spaces. All right. So that's what we have working with. What do we do next? I am now going to write so you see what we have. Of course, this is now going to be 300.0. All right. So let me rewrite the problem so we see exactly what we have working with. So that's 300.0 divided by 3. All right. So that's what we have working with. So I'm going to go right ahead. And of course, I'm going to work this problem. So I'm going to set it right out. So 300.0 is your dividend. Of course, 3 is your divisor. Let's go right ahead and work this problem. Ask yourself, how many groups of 3s can you get from this 3? And of course, you can only get 1. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. Draw your line, and of course, you're going to take away. You have 3, and you give away 3, you have 0 left. Look to see what is next in line, and of course, you have 0. And of course, I'm going to bring down this 0 that is in the 10th place. And I'm going to ask myself, how many groups of 3s can I get from this 0? And of course, I can only get 0 groups. All right? I'm going to put 0 right there because I can't get a group. All right, so we're going to look to see which digit is next. And of course, we have a next 0, which is in the 1st place. I'm going to bring it down. And of course, I can't get a group of 3, so I'm going to write 0 again. What next in line? I have my decimal place. I'm going to bring it right up to my quotient. And of course, I'm going to look if I have a next digit in line. I have another 0. I'm going to bring it down. Then I'm going to ask myself, how many groups of 3s can I get from 0? And of course, I can get 0 groups. So the next thing we're going to do is to look at this problem. And of course, in this case, our quotient is 100. 100.0 is the same thing as 100, right? So let's go right ahead and look at this problem. I'm going to erase it in a few. All right. So I'm going to be erasing this problem. I'm going to erase this problem so we can know exactly what is next. All right. So let me erase this one. All right, so we're going to go right ahead, and of course, we are going to work this problem. All right, so let's identify our divisor first. The divisor that we have working with in this problem, of course, it is 0.2. This is our divisor, 0.2. All right, so let me take it and write it down. 0.2. And of course, the 2 is in the 10th place. I'm going to multiply by 10. All right. I'm going to multiply by power of 10. And of course, move one place to your right. Your decimal place is going to come after your 2. And of course, you're going to end up with a whole, which is 2. All right. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to do the same thing to our dividend. So 4.12 is our dividend, and we're multiplying by 10 as well. All right. So I'm going to be moving one place to my right with my decimal point. And of course, that's where my decimal point will fall. All right. So I'm going to write out our dividend so we know exactly what we have working with. And of course, that is 41.2. That is what we have working with. So let me rewrite it. 41.2 divided by 2. That is what we have working with. All right. So let me go right ahead and work this problem out so that you can see what the quotient is looking like. All right. I'm setting the problem out. So 41.2 is your dividend, and of course 2 is your divisor. All right. So I'm going to say to myself, how many groups of 2 groups? This 2 and multiply by this 2. And of course, 2 multiplied by 2, you are going to get 4. I'm going to put my 4 right here. And of course, I'm going to take away next. So you have 4 things and you give away all 4 of it, you have 0 left. So I'm going to look and I'm going to see what is next in line. And of course, I have 1 and it is in the 1's place. I'm going to bring it right down. I'm going to say to myself, how many groups of 2's can I get from 1? I can't. So I'm going to put a 0 right here to say I can't. What is next? I have my decimal place. I'm going to put it right here in my quotient. I'm going to look to see if we have a next digit. Of course, we have numeral 2, which is in the 10th place. I'm going to bring it down beside that one. And of course, it now becomes 12. How many groups of 2's can you get from 12? And of course, you can get 6 groups. So now you're going to ask yourself, 6 multiplied by 2, what you get? Of course, you get 12. Draw your line, and of course, you are going to take away. You have 12 things, and you give away all 12 of it. You have 0 left. All right. So our quotient is 20.6. And of course, your quotient is your answer. I'm going to leave this problem for you to look at it for a while. And of course, I will erase it in a few. All right, so I'm going to erase this problem and we're going to take our last problem for tonight. All right, so this is the problem that we have working with, and of course, $155.5 divided by 0.5. That's what we have working with. 155 divided by 0.5. So let's go right ahead and divide our problem. First, you have to identify your divisor, and of course your divisor is 0.5. All right? Then I'm going to take this 0.5 and I'm going to multiply it by 10. 5 is in the 10th place. And of course, I'm going to move one place right. So the decimal place is going to move right there. All right. So now we're going to end up with 5, which is a whole. Remember now, when we're dividing decimal by decimal, your divisor should turn to a whole before you start dividing. So now whatever you do to your divisor, you should do the same thing to your dividend. All right. So I'm going to take my dividend and I'm going to multiply by 10 as well. So now I have 155.5 multiplied by 10. And of course, I'm going to move one place to my right. So the decimal place is now going to come after this 5. All right. So let me rewrite the problem so we know exactly what we have working with. And of course, it's going to be 1,555.0. So we have 1,555.0 divided by 5. That's what we have working with. All right. So first we're going to go right ahead and set this problem out. All right. So let's just set the problem out. And of course, 1,555.0 is your dividend. And of course, in this case, 5 is your divisor. Ask yourself, how many groups of 5 can you get from 1? Of course, you can't. So I'm going to put 0 right there. And of course, put these two digits together. And of course, we're going to get 15. And of course, how many groups of 5 can you get from 15? You can get 3 groups of 5s. And of course, 5 multiplied by 3 or 3 multiplied by 5, you are going to get 15. So draw your line and of course, you're going to take away. You have 15 things and you give away all 15 of them. You have 0 left. What is next in line? We have another 5, which is in the 10th place. And of course, I'm going to bring it right down. How many groups of 5 can I get from 5? I can get only 1 group of 5s. And of course, 5 multiplied by 1 give you 5. You're going to draw your line next and you're going to take away. So the next thing you're going to do is to take 5 things and you give away all 5 of it. You have 0 left. All right, what is next? We have another 5, which is in the 1st place. I'm going to bring it down. Ask myself, how many groups of 5 can I get from this 5? And of course, I can only get one group. All right, I'm going to put 1 right here. And of course, 5 multiplied by 1 or 1 multiplied by 5, you are going to get 5. Draw your line, take away. You have 5 things, you give away 5 of them, you have a 0 left. All right, so what is next? What is next? All right, so the next thing is that you are going to go right ahead, and of course, you are going to put your decimal place up. And of course, we have another 0. We're going to bring it right down. And of course, we're going to ask ourselves, can we get a group of 5 from this 0? And of course, we can't. So because we can't, I'm going to say no with a 0 right there. So in this case, our quotient is 311.0, which is the same thing as 311. All right? So that is the end of this problem. All right, you realize we have 0 remaining right there. That's the aim at all times. So guys, we are now at the end of Maths Hour. Thank you so very much for tuning in. And of course, remember now, when you are dividing decimal by decimals, the first thing you have to do is to change the divisor to a whole number by multiplying by 10. All right, so the next thing you are going to do is to ensure that you check to see whether it is going to be 10 that you're multiplying by. You're going to check to see if it is 100 or 1000. You have to check your divisor first. And anything that you use to multiply your divisor, that's the same thing that you're going to use to multiply your dividend. All right, so you have to make sure that you look carefully at your divisor first. All right, so for example, as I said, this 5 is in the 10th place. So guess what? We are going to multiply by 10. Of course, we only have 1 digit after our decimal place. So we multiply by, what we multiply by? We multiply by 10. If it is 2 digits after, you multiply by 100. If it is 3 digits after your decimal place, you multiply by 1000. So the amount of digits that you have after your decimal place in your divisor tells you what to multiply by. All right? So I hope this was useful. And until next time, have yourself a blessed one. All right? Today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday, and of course, tomorrow is Read Aloud Friday. You can feel free to join Dijonae and Screen tomorrow and to share your story. All right? So bye. Thank you for coming. Have a good evening. You can feel free to leave a comment on the outside in the comment section to tell us what you think about this math lesson.